There was an idea. The idea was to bring together a group of remarkable people, see if they could become something more.
I have an army. We have a Hulk.
This is the Marvel Tribe, brought to you by Walt's Apartment Podcast and the DisInsider.
Avengers!
Assemble.
So, hello everyone, and welcome to the Marvel Tribe. We are a group of excited and passionate individuals who have come together to share our love of all things Marvel. We are brought to you by the Walt's Apartment Podcast and the DisInsider for all your Disney-related news. I am so honored to be joined by an amazing group of nerds where it's just me and one other person, Breanna, but we're still an amazing group here. So, from the big screen to the small print, feel the pulse in your chest so you know you're alive. One team, one love. We are the Marvel Tribe. The Marvel Tribe. So, what's up, Breanna? How are you?
I'm great.
So, I am fantastic. And for all you people out there, we are just kind of, we missed you guys last week. You know, that's just life. It happens. And so we owe you guys a episode 3 rundown, as well as the latest episode 4. So we're going to kind of smash them all together and just kind of blend the two and pop here back and forth and do all kinds of speculations and talk about Easter eggs and all that fun stuff. So, you have a preference, Breanna, on how you want to do this, or
no? Let's just go for it.
All right. So, I'm gonna do my best to. I'll go over episode 3,
Okay.
And we'll just chime in when you want and stuff. But I'll try to condense it down because I really want to talk about episode 4. I think that is the piece that has everyone kind of freaking out or scratching their heads or their jaws dropped or they're like, what the heck is going on here? So. Let's start with episode 3, which was, it was a couple weeks ago. The first thing we do, first thing that happens is it opens up on we get Layla,
Mhm.
and we get this nice little fuzzy picture of Layla, and she's kind of talking, and we realize she's in this office where there's this lady who is making her a fake passport. The reason why she's getting the fake passport because she wants to go back to Egypt. She hasn't been there in 10 years, and she wants to go back to follow Mark. Mark has left after that little fight scene over, when he met Harrow, and Harrow sicked the dogs of hell on the jackals of hell on him and stuff, and he took the scarab, and he took off to Egypt. So Mark traced him down. So Layla's on both of their tails, and she's having a conversation with this lady who, from the conversation, she has worked with Layla's dad and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
which will be significant later. So, and she's pretty good actually making passports. I'm like, man, she has all this equipment. I'm looking at it's like some
The professional printer and lamination.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure it was an Egyptian passport too. Like it
Yeah,
wasn't the
yep.
US. Like
Yep, full on Egyptian citizen passport that you would get and stuff, and so yeah, I thought that was pretty darn cool, and they not that well. I'm gonna mention this; it has no bearings until we get to episode 4. But she pulls out of the drawer like a jar of little marshmallow looking things and
Mhm.
stuff, and snacks on those. So that's her snack of choice, which we'll see later. But I thought.
you're muted.
Sorry, I unplugged my second there. Come on. Maybe it's not there we go. I'm back. All right, I'm back. All right. So yeah, she gets her fake passport, and then she's heading off to Egypt to go track down Mark. Meanwhile, let's fast forward into Egypt. We have Harrow and all of his cult-like followers just kind of combing the desert with the scarab, trying to find Amit's tomb, the burial site and stuff. So they're off in the desert, and they're just kind of following the scarab as it's kind of leading them, and then all of a sudden it points down, and boom, we're here. We find you know we don't find the tomb. You have to dig for it. Everything's buried under thousands and thousands of years of built up sand. So they're in the right location. So with that said, one of Harold's goon squads come up to him and let him know that Mark is hot on their trail. He's made it to Egypt and he is asking and trying to locate them. Harold says, you know, he pays no mind and says, hey, let's start digging. And that's, you know, and we go on from there. Fast track to a Mark running on over the rooftops here. Thought he was being chased, but he was actually trying to catch up to somebody. And he managed to hop on top of one roof. And there's these guys who have this other guy by knife point that they just stabbed to death. And, you know, Mark wittedly makes a snide comment saying, hey, I wanted to talk to that guy first. So anyway, in the vein of Indiana Jones in The Last Crusade, where you have the local you know, villain guys and stuff standing off with Indiana, you get that kind of rooftop standoff here, which was kind of funny. I know it was done on purpose and stuff as well.
I was gonna say the knife throw in the air, I just thought was like, oh, that would have been great in an early 2000s 3D movie. Like,
yes, absolutely. The don't cross this line with the little drawing on the knife mark and stuff. And the one part that I know for a fact was an ode to Indiana Jones was it was in similar vein when one of the goons from the movie Indiana Jones decided to display some intimidation with his knife swordsmanship, and in this scene, the guy wanted to show his intimidation by licking the knife. And unlike Indiana Jones, who had a gun at the time, he's, you know, after the guy wielded his knife and did his little tricks and stuff for bravada, Indy just shot him. Funniest scene ever. Well, here Mark doesn't have a gun on him, so he just socks him in his jaw mid lick of the knife and stuff. So I thought that was hilarious. It definitely was an ode to Indiana Jones. So he ends up besting these guys, even though they had knives and stuff, and he was able to disarm them. And he had his knife held up to one of the guys, and then you can see Stephen in the reflection, begging Mark not to do it. Do not, you know, go down this road. And then Mark has a blackout. And next thing we know, we're in the back of a cab headed to the airport. So yes, I could speculate. Was that Steven who did that? Yes, it was. Absolutely. It makes sense. Steven in some foreign land who's used to waking up in weird places, his default is to always go home.
Yeah.
So somehow Steven got the body back, held a cab and take me to the Cairo airport. But that didn't last too long because Mark came back. He woke up in the back of the cab and he's now, you know, speaking Farsi to the guy, and the guy is like, oh wait, you can speak my language and stuff, and he's like, tells him to stop, and then he sees the two guys that apparently Steven let go off of the roof walking out of this house. And Mark is like, hey, stop, I need to talk to you guys. So I was like, no. And the kid's like, but you let us go. So they took off and stuff. And anyway, he started chasing them and stuff, and they took off down the road after him and stuff to catch up with them. He ends up catching up with one of them. Gabs the knife, and then he gets bonked upside his head by the third guy that was on top of the roof, causing him to pass out. And then he wakes up again. This time as Steve. He wakes up as Mark. Sorry, as he pulls a knife out of one of the guys. Obviously, it's a bloody scene and stuff. And Steve's is in the reflections like, "Oh my God, what did you do, Mark?" And Mark is like, "I did not do this. What did you do, Steve?" He's like, "What?" He's like, not me. This wasn't me. So that was more of a direct, like, hey, there's another personality.
Someone
here.
else.
Yep, there's someone else here. It's probably Jake Lockley or the place marker that we labeled him as Scotty.
Yep.
Still
going with Scotty.
Going with Scotty until they tell us different. So so there was a third person who killed him, and then looks like there's a kid that was still left alive, and so Mark is kind of walking over towards him as he's trying to scoot off, broken and battered, and then here comes Khonshu saying, "Hey, take him to the roof." He's like, he's just a kid. He'll talk. Trust me. He'll talk. Take him to the roof. So he takes the kid over to the roof and leans him over the roof. And this is the part where the kid just kind of shows up and saying, I'm a true follower of Amit, because he says, praise Amit. And while he's being dangled by his scarf, he cuts the scarf and he falls to his doom. So, yeah, completely shocking Mark. And Khonshu was like, thought he would talk. Totally unbothered. I mean, that was
Khonshu showing his true colors in this episode.
He is. Khonshu was not your hero. Don't put a lot of stock in that. Khonshu was this great hero guy and stuff. He does have godlike powers, and he is one of the Egyptian gods, but he's also his own personality. And so he's kind of, I'm getting a little bit remnants of Deadpool in Khonshu and stuff. Like, he really just doesn't care about people all too much. So anyway, let's see where it's been a minute here. So Mark, confers with Khonshu's like, hey, how are you supposed to, the guy I was supposed to talk to died. How I'm supposed to get a clue? How I'm supposed to find Harold and stuff? Is like, we need to have a conference. He suggested a conference of the gods of the Ennead, and he's like, well, how do we do that? And it's like, well, you be careful about having a conference with them, because you could face their wrath and judgment and stuff. And so he's like, all right, leave it up to. So Khonshu's like, leave it up to me. I will summon the gods. And so Khonshu was messing with the sun, and he made an eclipse happen in the middle of the day, causing the gods to summon a council with all the avatars of the gods, including Mark himself. So Khonshu and them was walking down the alleyway, and then this portal, kind of very Harry Potter fashion, kind of opens up out of the wall.
Yep.
Yeah. So I thought that was kind of cool too. So he's like, yeah, just, there you go. Just kind of go follow along. And Khonshu doesn't give him any instructions or anything. He just says, yeah, I'll be there.
I'll be there.
I'll be there. Don't worry about it. Just as he walks off and stuff. And Mark's like, what the? Okay.
I know. He's just telling him how important this meeting has to be. And then he's like, yeah. Don't worry about it. I'll be there.
Yeah.
And walks away.
I got your back, man. Don't worry about it. So I love that part. And then, so he goes into the room, and it actually the portal opens up into one of the Great Pyramids of Giza there, which was really cool.
Stephen is having the time of his life.
Oh yes. Stephen recognizes it right away in the reflection as Mark is walking down the hall, and he's approached by, I can't remember, it was Tefnut, but one of the avatars of the gods, who was friends, or are a little bit more than friends with Khonshu and stuff. And so she approached Mark and says, hey, they has Khonshu not spoke of me, and blah blah blah. And it's like, no, the great music that I play. It's like, no, his music is more of violence. That's his bag. He, for at least from what I know, what Mark says. So she pretty much gives Mark the rundown. It's like, hey, so all the avatars, will come and will hold court here, and just kind of go with it. It's your first time, just kind of go with it. That's all you can say. It's not that pleasant of an experience, but it's not that bad either. So they all take their different places, and now there is seats for like 9, but only 7 of them do show up and stuff for the council here. And we can get into.
Isn't that like the poster in the first episode?
Just like the poster. There's a few gods that were missing from the seats and stuff here. And so they come forth, or Mark comes forth before there's Horus and Isis and or Isus, and there's a whole bunch of different gods. I didn't write them all down. So they asked, why are you playing with the sun? Why are you summoning me? And he's like, you abandoned Earth. You guys should pay more care. Blah, blah, blah. Said living in the overvoid, which in the comic books, the overvoid is a big like pyramid. It's like Asgard, basically. It's a realm for the Egyptian gods. So all these gods in the universe have their own realms. Like I said, like with the Asgards, Thor and Odin, they have their realm as well too. So that's what the overvoid is their realm, that they decide to just go hang out at. And then they have the avatars whose only job is to just watch, not to interfere, not to do anything. Similar to the Eternals. They were just kind of there to the Eternals had a little bit more of a guiding hand with mankind and stuff. But these guys are just, their avatars just to watch, and that's it. So he said, so anyway, Khonshu takes over or possesses Steve's body and says that, hey, while you guys are off somewhere else, we have Harrow here who is trying to find Amit and resurrect the banished god, who's going to wreak havoc on this planet and right under your noses. So they said, well, all right, let's see if this is true. Bring forth Harrow. Harrow comes crawling out of one of the portals and stuff, and he's pretty kind of slick with it and stuff, and comes before and says, he pretty much just denies it, full on. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, he's like O.J. Simpson, did not do it. And they kind of almost just kind of took his word for it and stuff. Like Harrow had a little bit more a privilege and authority over the council and stuff, and so they said, well, we need proof, not just allegations and stuff like that. And Harrow went into talking about how Khonshu was just running amok, and he ended up taking over this poor guy mine who was a broken man. Mm-hmm. he's unwell. Khonshu is just known for exploiting people and everything else, and Khonshu called him a liar, and so Khonshu went to go take a swing on, which was the coolest thing I saw and stuff in some of these Marvel shows. Took a swing on Harrow, and it was I think it was, I can't remember, one of the gods stopped him and then kind of put him in this like energy handcuff and stuff and made him take a kneel. And it's like, no, we don't condone violence here. So those energy fields are kind of cool. I wish I had that kind of power. Just stop. So he put him on his knee and was like, look, we don't condone violence here. In fact, know what, Khonshu, go away. We want to talk to Mark himself. And so they did. Mark is like, they asked him like, hey, are you unwell? Are you okay? You can talk about Khonshu. He won't hurt you, blah, blah, blah. And Mark is like, well, yeah, I am unwell. He kind of admitted that to the panel of gods and stuff. But he's like, but it's not about me. It's really about, Harrow and stuff and what he's trying to do. You guys should be focusing on him. And the god's like, okay, well, it sounds like Harold just kind of proved his point, so we kind of believe him. So we're just going to go ahead and let Harold go because there's, we really don't have any evidence of what Khonshu is saying. But what Harold said is proven to be true. He took a human avatar who was unwell for his own bidding and everything else and stuff. And so they ended the council. They let Harold go, and then the woman reached out to the woman avatar reached out to Stevens like, hey, look, if you need to, if this is true, you need to get to the tomb before Harold does. There may be another way for you to do it. There's been this secret sarcophagus that is a Senfu, his sarcophagus, who's been stolen years ago. It's on the black market and stuff. That may have the clues to help lead you to the tomb and stuff. And so she gave him that tidbit, and then they left and went part ways. And then trying to have recall here, but I think this is the part where, go ahead.
No, you're good. Then he's just in somewhere in like a downtown area, going to like a guy selling juice or something.
That's right.
Oh, you're muted again.
There we go.
Okay.
All right, I'm back. So yeah, whoa, that's loud. So there, yeah, he's downtown and he's trying to do his little secret kind of like spy stuff, which Mark is apparently not that great at it and stuff. I'm again leads me to believe Jake is more of that kind of espionage kind of guy. Mark is more of just the muscle, like the mercenary stuff. So he's in there and he's like, "Hey, yeah, I need some help. I'm trying to find Sinfu sarcophagus." And the guy looks like nah, dude, you're narc, man. I ain't saying nothing. And then here comes Layla, drinking some drink out of a bag and stuff, which is indicative of the culture. Actually, in Africa, there's a lot of people drinks out of a bag. They're like, they're not icy bags, but because we don't drink drinks out of the bags here like that. But it is a common thing and stuff. And so she's just at home back in Egypt doing her thing, coming up to Mark. It's like, yeah, nah, you're probably not going to get what you're looking for by the way you're doing it now. So she convinced them to kind of team up and stuff. And so she had an idea and she was going to take them to go see, what was the guy's name?
Yeah, like, I feel like she was talking about, she's like, yeah, you're not going to get anywhere because you're not Egyptian. So no one's going to trust you. So.
Yeah, no one's going to trust you. You're an outsider. You're a tourist and stuff. Let me see. Oh, I have the name here. Mogart. Yeah, Mograt or Mograt. I'm gonna say Mograt. That's it.
Sounds great.
So Mograt, just to kind of set this up too. So Mograt, who is also referenced in the comic books, he plays Midnight Man, who's like this master thief. And the reason why he got the name Midnight Man is because he always strikes at midnight and he steals these really priceless artifacts and stuff, and he keeps them for himself. He's a collector and he does all the collecting himself. He doesn't bargain with money. He bargains with his skills and being a prowler. Also, with that said, the actor who name is Gaspar Uleli, he died earlier this year in January. So he was in a ski accident. But I know that they had more set up. If they're going to introduce a little bit more character builds and stuff, this is definitely one. Introducing the Midnight Man would definitely been a beneficial one. But unfortunately, he passed before the first episode was able to air. So yeah, that's a bit of tragic news and stuff about that. So we're getting close to the end. So back to the so they're on a boat heading towards to go meet this Mograt to go meet Morag, and they're kind of just having they're having a conversation about the relationship and everything, and you just like, yeah, I don't know what to tell you. I remember the music we used to play, everything else, and I just left, and it was for your own good or what have you and stuff. And so they're just kind of reminiscing a little bit, and then they end up pulling up to Mograt's compound, where there was these guys on horses and doing these stick wars and everything else. Like, it looked really cool. It was a really nice setup scene. And then one of her old friends, his Mograt's bodyguards, come up to Layla, and they introduce and do a weird handshake because that was very weird looking. But anyway, so Mograt, they mentioned about Madripoor. Yes, Madripoor, which we got reference from Falcon and Winter Soldier. Because that's where a lot of that was taking place, where it's kind of this seedy underground, not a seedy underground town or city and stuff, where people go to hide and stuff from the rest of the world, and we had the power broker who's from there and everything else. So it would make sense that someone like Layla and Mograt would absolutely know about Madripoor and have done some dealings, probably with the power broker themselves and stuff. So that was a nice little Easter egg reference and stuff there. So she introduced her husband, which she had to call by a different name, and it's evident that the dude does not like Steven at all. He barely wants to shake his hand and whatnot, but they talked their way into reviewing the sarcophagus and just kind of checking it out. And that's where that's where Mark is asking for Steven's help to kind of figure this out. And they're kind of playing around with these what looks like star maps that are on these pieces, these scraps of cloth and stuff. And so they're trying to, Steven's in the reflection trying to help him out while Layla's stalling for time. Meanwhile, they're getting very suspicious about what the goings on, and then we have Harold show up, who just ruins.
He shows up everywhere.
So. Yeah, he just shows up everywhere and stuff. And it's like, hey, I tell you what, I'll pay whatever they offer, or I'll double it, or whatever and stuff. In fact, or I have some good stuff I can show you myself and stuff. So he pulls out the scarab, and it floats and does this cool little thing and stuff. And so he got Mograt's interest and whatnot. And so he ends up talking to him about the cane that he has a little bit of power of a sliver of the power that Amit possessed. So it started going purple, and he ended up using that cane to destroy the sarcophagus that Margot Mograt has. Anyway, I was trying to remember what sparked off the fight, but they started. Did he catch some of the artifacts on them or something on Steve or on Mark?
They kind of started the fight because they realized that Mark was being suspicious, touching the maps and everything. Yeah, and then Harrow showed up, and then while they were being distracted, Mark gets the suit and he's up on the roof.
Yep, Mark turns into Moon Knight. He hops up on the roof and stuff, and then that's where the battle goes down and stuff. And so the fight scene comes out. We get to see full-fledged Moon Knight fight with his Egyptian daggers and taking out guys left and right. We can see Layla throw some hands and stuff. She's a little badass in her own right and stuff. Actually, she's just a badass, period. She just is. She ends up fighting inside of that little glass pyramid-y looking thing and taking out what used to be her friend. I mean, I would hate to have a friend like that who just shanks me in my shoulders like that. But hey, he was trying to kill her too. So she broke apart her awesome necklace and turned it to two daggers and just.
Oh yeah, she just stabs him.
Yeah, full on. It was awesome. So then Mark runs, our Moon Knight runs up into the arena, and he's just fighting these guys, and then. There's a battle between Mark and Steven about having control. Steven manages to take control while Mark's trying to annihilate one guy, and then so he turns into Mr. Knight. And probably about a few seconds after being Mr. Knight, he gets stabbed twice with spears, and he gives the body back up. He's like, "All right, you can have it back." The timeout thing didn't work. I tried peace, and I'm getting assailed here. So please help me out. So Moon Knight came back, or Mark Spector's character, and then just kind of kicked butt and was taking names. Layla's being bested by a few of the goons, and then in comes Moon Knight to just defend her and just kicks everyone's butt. Mogart, his last ditch effort to try to, take out Layla, he couldn't, so he tries to run off, and Mark kind of throws a spear or throw a dagger, and you don't really see. It may have hit him, and don't know if it killed him or not. He just kind of rolls off into the fog, and then they themselves decide to escape and get out of there. With that said, so they drive off into the desert, and then they're sitting on, they're looking at the map thing, or that they swiped from the sarcophagus, that the thing they managed to save, and trying to figure it out. Layla's trying to convince Mark to, let Steven do this because this is his thing and stuff. All right. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, cool. All right, I'm back. So Mark turns to Steven. He's like, all right, fine. I'll let you do this and stuff. And so he takes the mirror, he takes the shards of the little map, and he fashions a star out of it, and it turns out to be a map of the stars and the pinpoint location of where Amit's tomb would be buried. The only hitch was it's a map of the stars from 2,000 years ago when it was buried with Sing Fu. So with that said, they are really stuck. I mean, with GPS the way it is and stuff, there's no way they can find it. They can be a 30-mile radius and stuff, which I don't know about you, but digging that many holes or that's just not a possible thing to do. So Khonshu said, I absolutely do remember the night and what that looked like 2,000 years ago, but I'm going to need your help to help me do this. And so Stephen and Khonshu, they started reverting the stars, going backwards in time 2,000 years, and they landed, and it shows different clips of people in Egypt. Everything's night, and just the stars, the constellation starts to spinning. So it's not just them seeing it; it's everybody surrounding them seeing that the sky is being sent back in time 2,000 years. And so they did. Layla gets a picture of it, managed to map out where the coordinates is, and doing that, which disrupts you're disrupting Earth or whatever. The gods decided that we're done with Khonshu. We're fed up with them, so they decided to imprison Khonshu into a statue. And as they were doing this, Khonshu gave some last words to Stevens. Like, hey, I don't think did he call Steve a name? He's commonly calling him a name. I don't really pay attention.
I don't remember.
But yeah, he said something to the effect of, "Hey, Worm, tell Mark to come find me, to come free me and stuff." That and then he disappears and fades away, and then Steven just kind of passes out, and so we see. So then it cuts to Khonshu is in prison in a little figurine statue, and we see Harrow talking to one of the avatars as he walks in to go pay his last respects to Khonshu and stuff. But he's
everywhere.
Yeah, he is. He shows up everywhere. But he ends up just kind of talking smack and telling Khonshu, "You're the reason why I'm here. So thank you. Because of what you've done to me, you've given me the drive to see it through and stuff." Yeah, giving himself a pet talk.
It's like, if you hadn't have broke me so much, I wouldn't have known what healing is like.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, okay, dude. Like, you could have healed a different way. Try therapy. But anyway, so then that's how that ends and stuff. So that was a quick little piece into that, and we're going to jump right into episode 4. Which kind of picks up right where Mark or Steven passes out. They're in the desert. Steven passes out, and then there is. Oh, first I have to say, okay, this episode gives me very much Indiana Jones meet 12 Monkeys meet Shuttered Island vibes and stuff, like full on. Like it just. Yeah, that'll make sense later in this episode here.
I think it's important to note that with Khonshu gone, they no longer have the suit. So
yes, absolutely, yes,
they're on their own.
Yep. You no longer have the power and the protection of the god when he's encased in stone. So actually the opening scene of episode 4, before the sand, you see the gods, they actually take Khonshu's statue and place it on this rack or wall unit of multiple different gods. So Khonshu wasn't the first god that they encased in stone. So they took his and placed it on, and you see like the candle backlights all of these statues, and you see there's more gods, which may have answered why there weren't that many people in the council in the first place. So then it cuts to them in the desert, and Layla's trying to drag Steven's body to the truck down the hill, and then a car is coming, starting shooting at them, just random. I don't know if that's a thing. If you're in the desert driving and you have a gun and you see people, just shoot them. Just shoot. It's probably safer that way versus ask questions. But anyway, so they're being shot at and stuff, and so she rolls his body downhill and she runs down to go hide in the truck, and she manages to, with a flare, very handily, distract them enough to toss a flare in the back of the truck and cause the truck to, all the bullets in the truck to go off and pretty much take out the guys. She took them all out with a flare. That was pretty badass, in my opinion. After that happens, Steven somehow from all the commotion woke up, and then that's kind of where we kind of set things off. They're riding along together in the car. Steven is telling Layla about how really why Mark left her, like he was trying to protect her because Khonshu, who he was basically going to use you as avatar, that was his thing. So she was like, okay, that makes a little bit of sense as far as him leaving me to protect me, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, I'm so happy, to be on this adventure. We're in the car, we're on the ride, we're going to, do this, adventure. And then she stops and like, yep, we're walking from here. So they started walking. They get close to the coordinates and stuff, and they started walking. There was a goat, the black goat that was just sitting on top of the mountain, just watching them. I don't know the reference of that at all, other than that, Thor has goats that pull his little carriage and stuff that we saw even in the Thor trailer and stuff. Mm-hmm. But I know goats have some piece, symbolism and stuff like that. So I'll take it as that. I don't really have any other reference for that. So they end up finding the camp where Harold and his guys were, and it looks abandoned. So they kind of make their way down there and say, okay, well, we need to get some supplies. So they're searching through the tents and things, grabbing some water and some supplies, and they see like trails of blood and different, a machete laying on the sand and everything else, and instead of taking that as a sign of we don't need to be here, they took it as let's go in. Let's it seems inviting.
It seems safe.
Yes, yeah. Like someone who if you had warm milk and cookies or something, it's like yes, this seems like a thing to go explore. Again, the reason why I would never be caught in these type of scenarios in these kind of movies, because I'm immediately saying no. This is where the ride ends for me. Excuse me. But they proceed to go into this newly discovered tomb, and they're kind of looking around and searching, and they find this room that looks like a sacrificial room, or where they take the bodies of like really well-renowned Egyptians, like kings and pharaohs, and they do the embalming and everything else and stuff. So they found there's these little jars of organs, and there's a hand that's looks like being fashioned a rattlesnake skin to it and everything else and stuff. And so they're looking around trying to find a way out of this room besides the way they came in. And Mark or Steven at the time, he climbs up on top of the rafters, and then we hear this weird clicking noise. Creepy weird clicking noise. I don't know how else to describe it, but just clicking. And then we're like, okay, we need to hide. So Steven's hiding upstairs, and Layla hides behind the little sacrificial table. And
I know she had nowhere else to hide, but it was literally like the worst hiding spot.
100%. I'd rather go stand in the corner with my back faced away than to hide, just to sit behind that table and stuff and go hide. But hey, when the pressure's on and you're desperate, maybe you don't think too clearly. But so yeah, she shows a hide behind the sacrificial table. We see what is like this shadowy, like this mummy. I don't know.
I don't know what that thing is.
I'm not sure what you would call this dude, but kind of this mummy monster zombie looking thing, and he's dragging one of the guards, which we've seen before. It's the guy with the beard that came to Mark's apartment and then was at the who took Mark to Harrow before.
He's playing the cop, right?
Yeah, he's playing the cop. So he was also the one that was like, yeah, hey, we found it. He was celebrating with Harrow when they found the dig site and everything else. So he's being dragged up on the table and being gutted. So yeah, that was interesting. Layla is starting to try to slide around the backside of the table, and in typical horror fashion, like they always do, she knocks something or makes a sound.
Yep.
Gets the little zombie mummy's attention, and so Steve decides, like, well, I'm gonna have to help her out. Steve should have been like, I'm not really feeling Layla, so maybe no.
Did we forget before they entered the tomb that they kissed?
Oh my God, yes, we did. So before they're entering into the tomb, Steven, being the nerdy amateur archaeologist and stuff, really kind of he's actually the version that Layla actually fancies. He went in for a kiss, and then that's where Steven kind of confessed that what Mark was doing and everything else, and then Steven just kind of got his cojones, and he's like, he went in for a very awkward planted awkward kiss on Layla, but
yep, he shot his shot. Hey,
he did.
I'm proud of him.
He went for a shot. She goes down to the tomb. We see that Mark or Steven punches himself.
Oh yes, he does.
Yes, that was Mark punching him, but yeah, that's kind of what that was. And then somehow Steven managed to throw himself down into the hole too, as well. Again, I think Mark did that.
I'm sure he did.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, you're the same person. It's not even cheating, really. So shouldn't be abusing yourself like that. But yeah, anyway, so yeah, thank you for that part. We did skip that part. So anyway, they're back to the mummy scene. So Steven creates a distraction, and then the mummy looks up and he jumps up to the rafters, and he's about to sneak surprise attack Steven, or not surprise, but attack Steven. And then Layla makes some more noise, and that's where Steve's like, run, and she runs back from the entrance she came, and then Steve runs the other way, and the mummy gave chase to her, and so she is just dodging and darting throughout this tomb, and she makes her way to this room that has a ginormous pit. She manages to stop herself before she hurls herself overboard. And then she realizes that the only way to get across, she has to scale the wall to the side. There's like a little ledge. So she's doing that in very dramatic fashion, because it's one of those, all those ledges exist where, parts of it is just not stable. So we get the unstable ledge, and she almost falls a little bit. And then we get the creepy hand that is looking to just hold her hand. I think it was just trying to hold her hand. I don't,
He's definitely there to help.
Yeah, he was lonely. He's been who knows how many thousands of years he's been there. So he's like, oh, hey, nice hand. Let me hold it. So he tries to grab her hand. She freaks out. That should be the normal response. And she makes it across. Anyway, as she's kind of looking, regaining her bearings and looking where she is, out of nowhere, the mummy comes and grabs her and drags her back into the dark. Scared the crap out of me. I don't know about you, Breanna.
I was like that one. I was like, I don't know. I think the Miss Minutes though still might be on top. Yes,
Miss Minutes definitely was the creepy. Hey, y'all. Hey, that surprise jump scare scene. But this was up there with it. She comes back out of the shadow, and then he grabs her again, and then the third time is where they're fighting and tussling. And again, Layla holds her own. She's fighting this possessed mummy demon looking dude, and managed to strike a flare on his forehead. Very rough skin. God, this is where we need like a lotion sponsor. I can tie that in. If you have rough, dry skin like a 2,000-year-old mummy, try Neva or something. I don't know.
There you go.
Anyway, so she strikes the flare and then jabs him in the eye and managed to take him. Does a little hip roll and they both go over the edge. She managed to save herself, grabbing the ledge and pulling herself up. And to our surprise, in walks Harrow. That dude he just pops up. He just kind of pops up everywhere and stuff. So, but before we get to the Harrow part, it cuts over to Steven. Steven finds another tomb, part of the tomb and stuff that has jewelry and everything else. This is a place where you would bury your a revered pharaoh. And so he's like, "Oh my God, did we find the room?" He's getting excited. He's looking at the scribes on the wall, and he realizes it's in Macedonian writing, which is actual history. So Alexander the Great was a pharaoh. He was also from Mesopotamia. I can't say the words right. So can't help. So instead of the Egyptian hieroglyphs, it was in Alexander the Great's own his homeland, his people and stuff. So that was really cool. That was really cool. So he sees the sarcophagus and he thinks he found where they're hiding Amit. And so he goes over to it and he pushed back, he had to talk himself into it. This is how Steven works. And so pushing back the sarcophagus, he sees the mummy all properly bound and wrapped up, laid with weapons and other golden artifacts, laying by his body and stuff. And he couldn't find it's called an Ashanti, which is a statue, basically. That's it. So where you imprison the gods, as the same thing we saw with Khonshu. He was imprisoned to an Ashanti, or a statue. So he didn't see the statue, and so he's trying to figure out this puzzle, like where could this be? And he realized that Alexander the Great was the mouthpiece of the god, so it would make sense for them to bury the Ashanti. He was the mouth of Amit, to bury it inside of Alex. Alex. Can I call you Alex? Or you call me Mr. Great? Mr. Great's mouth. So he goes ahead and he unwraps it and he grossly jams his entire fist down his throat, kind of. And Mark cheering him on, like, "Yeah, buddy, get in there. Like, you got this. Get that knuckle in there, just all the way." So he's cheering him on and stuff. And
I'm sure the jaw falls off.
Oh my God! So, oh yes, yeah, he's definitely wide jawed and stuff at this point in time. So he ends up finding it. He finds the one and the only the Amit statue, or Ashanti. And then it cuts back to Layla and Harrow. And Harrow, Layla's like, "Yeah, okay, I don't really want to talk to you. I got to go find Steve and stuff." And so he's like, "Well," and he starts saying her dad's name. And it's like, "Oh, Little Scarab, like, huh, I knew, something about that, like it was a nickname that your dad would give you." She's like, so he obviously got her attention. Is like, "Look, here's the deal. The scales never lie." And he goes off into this whole story about how he can see what the truth reveals to him when he judges man, and he did that to her husband, and he saw her father. And so she wanted to know what happened, and he's like, "Well, he pretty much killed." He's like, he knows the dark secret. He needs to confess to you and stuff, but I know the burden that man's carrying, and Mark is carrying a very heavy one concerning your father, blah blah blah. And so Layla obviously pissed off, and she goes to just leaves, and he yells out, "Wake up," which is actually significant because it's I'll tell you that in a second.
Okay.
So yells, "Wake up," and she just kind of goes off screen. Steven is happy that he found the Shanti, the statue of Amit and stuff, and then in comes Layla, who finds him shortly after this, and she is pissed, visibly mad and stuff, and she's like, you need to tell me, I want to talk to Mark right now. And he's like, we won. Steven's like celebrating, like, we won. Have the statue, here it is, we won. It's like, nope, I want Mark right now, and hymns him up, and then here comes Mark, and it's like, all right, well, we gotta go, let's go, let's get out of here. It's like, no, you need to answer my questions. Like, no, we need to go. It's like, no, answer my questions now. Did you kill my father? And he's like, no, but I was there when it happened. So he admitted to that. So she wanted to know exactly what happened. And so this is where Mark kind of confessed, like, he was a hired mercenary, and his partner got greedy and decided to kill all the archaeologists on that particular dig, and ended up, he tried to save them. He tried to save her father. He couldn't. He admitted that the guy was just a greedy guy who was trying to just kill everyone, including him. He himself even got shot. He wasn't supposed to live, but he managed to live. He didn't tell her why he lived, but he did tell her as much as he was left for dead too. So that didn't kind of help things with that conversation. But then that's where Harold and his stormtroopers were on the trail, and that you can hear them coming into the room. So Layla goes off and hides, like, we gotta get out of here, try to go that way, try to find an escape, and I'll hold them off. Mark grabs the axe from out of Alexander the Great sarcophagus, and Layla is hiding, trying to find a escape, and in comes Harold and his goons with guns drawn and everything else. And then this is where he tells them, like, look, we all have choices in life. Here's yours. You can make the right choice right now. And then, Mark's like, you think Mark's going to kind of give up. This is very much, I love making movie references to each other when I see things that are similar. So this is very much, Marcus Aurelius from, not Aurelius, but from 300, when Xerxes tells him to take a knee, and he takes off his armor, and he kind of he takes off his shield, and he drops down his spear, and he hops down on one knee. So he basically is saying, submit to me, and then he gets up and he attacks. Same thing. It was kind of the same thing. So Mark said okay to Harold, and then as the guy with the gun goes towards Mark, he grabs the butt of the gun, slices him with the axe, hits the other guy with the axe, throws the axe at the third guy in front of Harold. Harold then grabs the gun from the slain soldier and shoots Mark directly in his chest. Shocking. Didn't expect that to happen, but he did. And then he shoots him again for giggles, because I'm pretty sure you shoot someone once in the heart, they're dead, but he wanted to make sure. So he was following the rules of make sure it's dead of movie lore.
All the horror movies.
Yeah, you shoot them once and then you never know. So Mark, definitely Harold, seen his number of horror movies, and he knows you always have to shoot the person at least twice, make sure they're dead. So he shoots them again, and he takes the statue, and Mark falls into the water that's behind the sarcophagus, and we see him kind of fade off into the light. Layla is trying to hold her screams back because she doesn't want also to suffer the same fate as Mark. And Mark kind of drifts off under the water into this dark light that turns into a white light. And next thing we know, we fast track. We are in a really weird looking movie where you see this young black kid and this older British guy just kind of tracing through the jungle, kind of like a actual Indiana Jones Disneyland set, not the actual Indiana Jones set, but and the guy in the movie goes by the name of the famous archaeologist Stephen Grant, And next thing we know, it zooms out even more, and we realize it's on a TV that is in a mental institution. And we start seeing characters. This is the trippy part, and this is where some things are gonna. We're doing on time. Okay, so this is where the trippy part gets into. So this actually is kind of somewhat pulled from the 2016 Welcome to New Egypt art, where Moon Knight, or Stephen Grant, is in a mental institution, and he is being convinced that he imagined Moon Knight and everything and stuff in a very, very believable way. And so one of the things I'm going to say is this: Marvel has a tendency to lift story arcs, but they change them completely. So they never retell the same story. They change the characters. They'll take some. They'll borrow some things from it, but they'll never tell you the story, the full story. So I'll tell you guys now, if you're going to read the 2016 edition of Welcome to New Egypt Moon Knight arc, it's not. He is not in a mental institution. Now, with that said, I'm gonna kind of jump out and say I think this is totally inside of Mark's head. Everything we have seen, and I'll give my evidence. Or as the gods of the NES said, produce the receipts. I will do that here in a minute. So it zooms out into this room, and we see we see the golden statue guy. I can't remember his name.
The street performer.
Good God, why can't I remember?
I don't. Yeah.
We see him calling bingo numbers that don't make any sense. Oh, there we go. Anybody who actually played bingo know that, like, when you're playing bingo, the numbers go sequential. Like, B, the column of B goes through 1 through 15, and anyway, so he's calling these numbers out of order, and so upon more further research, they're actually referencing different Moon Knight comic book numbers. So if you guys have the time, definitely check it out. But we're not going to have the time to go into that here because we want to get into the episodes. So, but that's what they're referencing. So B22 would be Moon Knight episode number 20, comic book number 22, and stuff and so forth. The only thing that was weird was they had a T16. There is no T in bingo. Not sure what that one was, but that was a cool little Easter egg. So you can really kind of check that chain of logic and then look at the corresponding ones, because they also introduced some of the characters in some of those comic books that we've seen on the big screen already. Now, with that said, we start panning out and we're seeing other characters. We're seeing the lady who did the fake passport for Layla. We're seeing the orderlies, the cops who came to Moon Knight's or to Steven's apartment. We are seeing the bodyguard of Mograt, who was greeting Layla and stuff. He was pushing a cart of cupcakes that we saw in the first episode when he stole the cupcake van. We see the old lady from the elevator who was drawing some pictures and stuff, and then they took the picture and put it on the freaked out lady. Almost every character that was in the previous episodes was kind of just roaming around this mental institution, including Layla. We see Layla. She so the orderly, the guy with the beard who we saw not only in the first or second episode, but we saw get gutted by the zombie mummy guy, was the orderly. He parked Mark by a window, and there's a reflection of him, and he looks like he's just kind of zombied out, like he is sedated to Kingdom Come, and he's strapped into his wheelchair, and we see Layla comes up to him, who's also looks very, very sick, and grabs his bingo card and it's like, hey, you won bingo, or I won bingo. This time I'll share with you this time. Yeah. So but something kind of cool. This is a cool Easter egg. I'm just going to reveal this because it happened right at this scene when Layla approaches Mark. you see she has a bandage on her pinky, and on that bandage is a scarab beetle. And so there's been some hinting that she might actually be the Scarlet Scarab. I'm thinking she is. She's very much. There's been hints throughout the different shows, and we can talk about that later when we get into more of the episodes. But that's definitely the insignia of the Scarlet Scarab. So, yep, I'm pretty sure that's a dead giveaway. She is going to be that particular superhero, who in the comic book is a guy, but who cares? That's, Marvel does
that a few times, yeah.
Absolutely, yeah, and I'm here for it. So he ends up trying. Marcus is looking at his reflection, trying to call for Steven, not getting a response. So he stands up and runs to the window, and he ends up falling because he's tethered to the wheelchair that's locked in place, and out of his hand comes a little action figure of Moon Knight. So the orderly comes and sets him back in his chair and say, hey, we need to stop doing this. We do this all the time and stuff. And so, yeah, so there's that part. And then we kind of fast forward a little bit. We're in what looks like a doctor's office. We don't really see the doctor. We see a kind of a fuzzy, blurry picture of a doctor talking to Steven, saying, hey, buddy, like, hey, I decided to watch that movie that you watched like 50 million times. How many times have you actually watched it? And, I love that movie. And he quotes a line from the movie about to ascend to heaven, you have to, the roots have to reach to the depths of hell. My favorite line. And, he talked about how he admired the villain, and that was in there. Yeah, I was like, oh, okay. So as he's talking, the picture starts to become less and less blurry and more less and less faded and blurry and more focused. And we see it's Harrow, or at least what we thought was Harrow. Nicely cut hair, mustache, as the doctor who's having a conversation with Stephen Grant. He's telling Steve it's going to be okay. You need to share with us. He's talking about how we don't live in a material world.
He's Mark at this point, right?
He's Mark. Yes, he is Mark at this point. So he's he's telling Mark that we live in a psychic world, not a material world, and you need to reveal more about what's going on. And you see there's little telltale signs around him, like so. Here's the part where I'm going to actually get into a little bit. So we all notice the signs that they show you that, that Marvel obviously wants you to see. So you see the cane, which it could be a mistake, easily replaces the cane of vomit. The sandals, the doctor likes to wear his sandals and stuff. There's the little crystal pyramid and then there's all the Egyptian artifact stuff behind them and stuff. And so as Mark's kind of starting to kind of gain his composure, he utters like, you shot me. He's starting to kind of put this together, and he's like, so the doctor's trying to get him to calm down. So you shot me, and he's freaking out. So he gets up, he's still in his sedated phase, runs to the door and tries to open the door. The door is locked. The doctor's pleading with him to come back. Let's not do this, again. He busts the window, opens the door. Then the orderlies come in to try to bum rush him. He ends up knocking one to the floor and biting the woman's orderly's hand, which are the two cops from the earlier episodes. As he's running down the hall in the haze, he's starting to get a little bit more and more clarity. He ends up ducking out behind in another room as the orderlies that are chasing him run right past him. He ends up in this room where there's this tomb that's starting to rattle, and you can hear someone cries for help to get me out of here, get me out of here. He goes over to peel back the sarcophagus, and it's Steve. It's Steven.
Muted.
Sorry about that. All right. So they are looking at each other, and they're like, okay, how's this possible? I'm looking at you're looking at me and stuff here. He's like, how's this possible? He's like, and so Mark looks at Steve and is like, hey, what's the last thing you remember? He's like, yeah, Harold shooting us, and he's like, yes. He celebrates. He's like, I'm not crazy. Someone else remembers that, right? So with this, I'm not gonna say this is an Easter egg, but it was a really kind of cool little thing. If you go back and see, you'll see this actually happen. So inside that room, when they hug each other, and he does the whole point at Mark does the point at Steve, like, what's the last thing you remember? If you look, there's kind of you can see the shadow on the door. You only see Mark's shadow. And then you see a shadow behind Steve on the wall. You only see Steve's shadow. So you only see one shadow, even though there's two grown men inside this tiny little room and stuff. Really cool. I was like, that's because, it's like one guy's pointing at nothing in the shadow. So just something I when you watch it the fourth time, you'll see it. So they end up going out of the room. It's like, we got to get out of here. So they're like, all right, yeah, I agree. Let's go. And they leave. And then they go by another door, and there's another sarcophagus, a tomb just standing up there. Also, someone trying to get out. This is probably, in my opinion, probably yours as well, Breanna, is Scotty.
Yeah.
Or Jake. But yeah, Scotty for now. But they ignore it because they never met Scotty. I mean, why would you? Yeah, I got my buddy. We're good. We're doing the buddy thing. So they end up going down the hall, and they see this big figure coming towards the hallway, opens up the door, and it is a gigantic Egyptian goddess hippo. And they're freaking out, and the hippo raises her hand and says, hi, in a very pleasant, friendly voice, and they freak the F out. And it ends. That's how it ends. It's over. So
a fabulous ending.
It was great and stuff. So let me say this. I'm gonna go as fast as humanly possible and stuff.
All right.
Let's see if I can get this done in like less than. So, okay. So when I'll go backwards too. So when Mark releases Steven from the tomb, if you notice, Mark is actually wearing the exact same clothes he was wearing from episode 1, the pajamas. Exact same everything and stuff. So that's first. Okay. Second, when Harold was using the pen, it was the exact. Oh, actually, this one's even better. So remember when Mark and Layla, first meet, they go, to Mark's neighborhood where, all the people, and Mark is like, give me where the sarcophagus, tell me where the sheriff is. And he ended up, him and Layla, they try to escape, and they end up going into this room that is like, what do you say? Like a mad magician's nightmare or something like that. That room, it has the columns and everything else. That's where the jackal kind of comes through the door, and only Mark sees them and not Layla. That room is the exact same room as the therapist room. It's even though it's all white, if you look at the columns, the exact same columns. In fact, the Egyptian art in the back of the door is the exact same placement as the art, and you see the big window behind the therapist or whatever's desk and stuff. Exact same room. So here's my thing. I know Disney likes to lift, or Marvel likes to lift inspiration from comic books, but they don't do the whole story. And the whole story is that this was a dream. I'm telling you, this is not the case. This is reality in the way of that Mark is really in a psychiatric ward, and this was all imagined. All these pieces and stuff, all the characters that we see, all the stuff that has been put together is from Mark's fractured psyche. And this is what we're going through. So there's no Moon Knight. Layla is absolutely in there with him. They're not, out there doing adventures and everything else. This is all going to be shown as real or made up in his mind. So this last 20 minutes that we saw is going to be the reality of where everything was. Everything else we saw was just imaginary. So that's my take on it. there were just too many clues that was pointed out that was the case, including in the Egyptian scene when they first go to Egypt. You'll see a cameraman actually filming the scene as the chase scene through the alleyway. You also see a pretty ill-placed green screen laying on the ground on the rooftop that's just sitting there under a chair. Kind of, and the color contrast is so ridiculously obvious. So it's like, oh, it's like a movie set. So there are some telltale signs that shows all of that stuff that happened was not real whatsoever. So that's what I'm going with, that Marvel's about to pull a nice little Shutter Island on us. And Mark has to go through his fantasy to come to the reality. And the reality we're going to get is going to be pretty darn shocking.
So where does the show go from here then?
So here's my thought process and stuff. The show is Mark's going to unlock a latent power that he actually absolutely possesses and stuff. And they're trying. All right. Moon Knight is real.
Okay.
Mark and Steven are not real. The Jake or Scotty character is real. And we are going to see another version of Moon Knight. I'm pretty sure. So we had Mr. Knight, which is obviously that's Steven's persona. We have Moon Knight, which is Mark's. The third personality, I think, is going to be the real personality, and the third Moon Knight outfit is going to be the actual real Moon Knight and stuff that is possibly in prison in whatever this is and stuff. So it's going to be, I think this is the fifth and sixth episode is going to be really going to kind of take us through hula hoop and stuff, but there's going to be some clarity. And I think by fifth episode, we're going to see the third personality. So I have more stuff, but I'll get into it later in the chat and we'll introduce it. And when we do the next episode next week, because we can focus on episode 5 and talk about some of the other little Easter egg tidbits and stuff that we discover as we go through the show.
All right. Yeah.
But absolutely
rewatch everything again.
There's a reason for it, but most importantly, pay attention to the part where he lets him out of the sarcophagus, because he's wearing the exact same pajamas that he's wearing. Obviously, the goddess, the hippo goddess, for those who don't know, it's Taweret. I forgot what she's the goddess of, but they mentioned Taweret in the first episode. You see the stuffed plushie animals.
Which I want. So yes. Disney, get on that.
Absolutely, make that happen and stuff. She's cute and stuff. So yeah, they mentioned that. In fact, his boss was in there. She was laying in the bed there and stuff. And so that was another thing about their interactions and stuff. Like, hey, if you keep ticking me off, I might stuff you in the sarcophagus. And guess who got stuffed in the sarcophagus? It was Steven. Again, I'm just telling you, the parallels are very much related to setting up the fact that he is really in a mental institution and he's fighting some demons and stuff here. So that's where I will end my input. You have anything else?
I mean, I was still going with this was something, since he was dead, he was going through some sort of afterlife thing. But honestly, you've convinced me that we're going a whole new direction.
We are, and I'm here for it. I'm ready for the trippy ride. So buckle up. There's a lot of talk out there too, talking about like, oh, this is such a weird thing. Like how, like, is he dead? Is he? This was the point. This was done purposefully. You're not supposed to figure this out. In fact, I'm pretty sure they looked at this and say, hey, WandaVision, they were speculating, trying to figure stuff out because we were dropping clues. Loki, they're doing the same. Let's give them a real mind bender and just pull the rug under everybody. And that's what they did. And some of you guys didn't like it. Some of you guys, like me and Breanna, are here for it, and we can't wait to watch next week's episode. Or actually, tomorrow at midnight.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm on the West Coast. It comes on at midnight. So that's tomorrow at midnight for me. So, you too. You're on the West Coast too.
I'm on the West Coast. All you East Coasters.
Yeah, you East
wait
Coasters.
Till 3 a.m.
You're really going to have to wait until Wednesday. But yeah, so for us, it's tomorrow at midnight. If we can stay up that late to watch the midnight showing. So with that said, I want to thank you guys for listening to our little rundown of episode 3 and 4 smashed together. I thank you, Breanna, for doing this with me. So I'm not a crazy person talking to myself, and I can share what's going on with someone else who watched the show. So
thank you. I was like, I got a lot out of this. It's a lot.
So yep, check us out, and we'll be back next week, and hopefully we're supposed to have a guest. So I got to figure it out. We'll figure it out. We'll have a guest person who can help us break down the next episode as well too. We'll work on that, and we'll announce it when we announce it. Watch us on on Walt's Apartment Podcast. We do that live every Wednesday on Facebook. So we'll make some announcements there if we get another guest or something changes. So with that, see you guys. And we went a little bit long, but it was worth it. All right. I forgot how to sign off. Do we just say bye and hang up?
We could just say bye.
All right. Well, I'm saying bye and we're hanging up. All right.
Bye.
Bye.